You acknowledge his greatness. I give you that.
Always.
But him doing well seemingly gives you no pleasure. You have grown men crying. You got people in airports huddled around each other, high-fiving, strangers.
Matt Valdez crying.
Matt Valdez on Instagram crying. I mean, a ton of people. People still talking about it
What
today.
about you, Eric? You weren't crying? You said you'd pay $5,000 for him to win another major. I assume that's coming to me.
Okay,
JP wins loses the bet.
All right, so there's my dollar. Thank you.
Well done. And I was
Thank you. That took 10 seconds.
Well played, John. I love it.
Okay, all right, but here's my question for you. Jim Nantz called it the greatest event he's ever covered. Michael Jordan says it's the greatest comeback he's ever seen. And we know other comebacks, Ben Hogan being struck. I'm not asking you to rank it, but what did it mean for you, even though you're not a Tiger guy? What kind of impact did it have on you?
Well, let me say this. It confirmed for me to another level what I've always believed, as you mentioned, about Tiger, that he's the greatest player of all time. I know there are people who will argue Nicklaus because Nicklaus still has more majors, 18 to 15. What I've said for years is that in his dominant period, 97 to 08, he did things that nobody's ever done and probably nobody ever will do. I mean, all sorts of numbers you can go through. And for him to come back from the various injuries that he had and from the personal problems that he created for himself, and to win another major at 43. Just winning a major at 43 is pretty impressive, even without all of that backstory. Confirms for me that even though he's not the player he was, let's be I think he'd be the first one to tell you that. He's not the player he was. He was 44th in driving distance at the Masters, whereas he used to always be in the top 5. But he's still good enough, even being, I won't say a shadow of himself, but being not what he used to be, to win a major championship and to win it on the back nine on Sunday. And it was a great performance. Now, let's be honest, he got some help. I mean, Molinari hitting 2 in the water on the back nine certainly helped him, but he didn't miss a shot on the back nine when the tournament was there to be won by a number of people. At one point, there was a 5-way tie for first place, and he was the one who emerged. So all credit to him for doing that. I didn't get teary-eyed. I rarely get teary-eyed about sports. If the Islanders win the Stanley Cup, I might, but I doubt it. And they're not going to win anyway.
Well, you do it Army-Navy. You always get upset there.
Army-Navy. And it's not the result that makes me teary-eyed. You're right. It's not the result. It's the event itself. It's the kids who play in the game and all that stuff.
Which makes Tiger has an incredible people. That's why his fan base is so large. Why do you think grown men are crying? I mean, I've talked to multiple guys that said they had tears in their eyes. There are reports of people at airports huddled around each other, high-five, just complete strangers. Why do people react to Tiger that way? They don't react to anybody else. Certainly not in golf that way.
Not in golf. No, not in golf. I think maybe years ago, of course, there wasn't the media exposure that we have now. Years ago, people reacted to Palmer that way on occasion. I think there was a very emotional reaction when Nicklaus won in '86, when it certainly looked like he was done winning at all, much less winning major championships. So occasionally there are golfers who rise to a special level, but what are we talking about, 3 in 50 years maybe? And my honest answer is I don't get it. I've said this to you guys before. I understand respecting his genius as a player. I understand the fascination with him because of all that's gone on in his life and because of the injuries. What I don't understand, and this is interesting to me, in 2010, when he came back his first tournament after the quote-unquote accident, and the first time he played was at the Masters, and you might remember he was in contention on Sunday, ended up finishing 4th. Again, a tribute to how amazing his golf is. But I walked around with him on Sunday early. He was a few groups ahead of the leaders, and he made this run on the front nine. He eagled the 8th to get to tie for the lead at that moment, and the place was going crazy. And I'm thinking to myself, after what he's done to his wife and to his children, I don't get the adulation. And I still don't to this day. I absolutely concede his brilliance. And by the way, I wrote this in my golfworld.com column on Sunday. He was absolutely charming afterwards, which in the past he wasn't. And I think the biggest difference for him was that he didn't necessarily expect this to ever happen again. When he won those first 14 majors, he went into every major he played expecting to win because he was that good. And after all that's happened in his life, I don't know that he ever expected this to happen again. And I saw real joy in him in the aftermath, not just with his family.
Don't you think he's also been humbled? I mean, he has become,
Yes,
I think,
yes.
slightly
No, I
a
think
better
that's part of
person. A better person.
I don't know if people become better people. I think we evolve.
Okay.
I think we learn as we get older. I hope I do. I hope you guys do. I think we learn from our mistakes. We learn from other people. We learn from successes. We learn from failures. I think he's done that. Tiger's very bright. I mean, that's another thing I've always said about him. I told you guys about having dinner with him all those years ago, and my conclusion, what I said to him after 4 hours was, I always thought you were bright, but I didn't realize how bright, because he's probably as smart as any athlete I've met in any sport. And so I think he gets it, and that he's very fortunate to be back where he is and to have come through that tunnel that he went through with the injuries and come out healthy on the other side.
Let's just, one last question, we move on and talk about Caps. He's now reinvented himself. This is the fourth or fifth time, right? You mentioned 44th in driving, but he led the tournament in greens and regulation.
His iron play was unreal.
Yeah, it's always been stellar. But he took it to another level. The putting, it was good when it needed to be. What does this mean for him now in the next 3 to 5 years? He's contended in the last three. He's won the Tour Championship last year. He's not the same player, but he's still, when he's good enough to beat everybody else generally.
Yep. And well, I think the big question is how long can he stay healthy? Yeah. I mean, he is 43. He does have these issues in his past. If he can stay healthy, clearly the numbers you just cited tell you that he can still play as well as anybody. He had the lead on Sunday at the British Open before he finished sixth. He was second at the PGA, and he won the Masters. So he clearly can contend in any event that matters when he's healthy. How long he stays healthy, how long his body holds up. He's an old 43 with what his body's been through, is going to be the question. And that's the thing, 3 to 5 years. If he stays healthy 3 to 5 years, I think he's got a shot to catch Nicklaus. And I would not have said that a year ago. I think what I said to you guys, can he win another one? Yes. Can he win 4 or 5 more? Probably. Probably not too unlikely, but possible.
Just to answer a question that some listeners had, did John Feinstein think of EB when Tiger won?
Honestly, no. But when I went on Twitter after I wrote, I saw a number of people. I think you tweeted, Eric, didn't you?
Not much.
Tweeting, and then I thought, oh yeah, there were a number of people who actually tweeted at me. Can't wait to hear you on the Junkies Friday morning because Eric's going to be so happy. And
well, EB was
so, Eric,
tweeting...
I'd like to say I'm happy for you, but I'm still waiting for my $5,000.
He was tweeting people that tweeted him in 2011 saying Tiger was done.
A lot of you told me
he was
so.
unearthing old tweets.
That's one of my favorite things to do. Yeah.
Fortunately, I wasn't quite that dumb.